This required me sending a group text to our besties over, and That's Why We Drink, because the subject line is, your friends at And That's Why We Drink got my ass haunted. Hi there. Before I start, I just wanted to say that you both are so wonderful and intelligent, and listening to your podcast is one of my weekly highlights. I cannot appreciate enough how you always give those who are victimized a voice and treat them with love and kindness. I thought you might be interested to hear this story because I'm not sure how many people have been haunted by a podcast topic. Now, on to the story. My father and I are both sensitive to paranormal experiences. He was raised on an isolated farm in Appalachia and taught me all of the rituals and warnings that come along with the entities that live in those forests. My mom worked in the criminal drug courts and has always been fascinated by true crime. Needless to say, I've always been intrigued by everything spooky, scary, or unexplained. So when I was first getting into listening to podcasts, I explicitly looked for those that aligned with those topics. This led me to And That's Why We Drink, and of course, you. In one of their first episodes, Em and Christine talk about a demon that haunts Ouija boards. Sorry for not saying the name outright, but since this night, I don't say, write, or even think its name. Em, however, did say it many times, and that is what is known to summon it. I was listening in my apartment while doing dishes, and it was turned up loud. I had never felt anything in this space, despite the last occupant having died in my bedroom, which was not told to me before I rented. And as I said before, I am sensitive to those energies, especially the dark ones. But while the podcast was going, I started to feel the hair standing up on my neck and arms. You know how you can tell when someone is watching you? Yeah, that feeling. I figured I was just creeped out and turned the podcast off while I finished up the chores I was doing. But after 20 minutes, the feeling hadn't subsided and only got worse. It got so bad that I took my cat and went for a drive because I was nervous about leaving her in that space without me. When I returned to the apartment, my roommate was home, and I thought that it was nothing and just me being overly dramatic. I quickly found out that was not the case. I got ready for bed, and in that apartment I always slept with my door closed so that my cat wouldn't roam at night and get into anything. It shut just fine, and I went to sleep. But at midnight, I woke up to the sound of the door opening. As soon as I saw it standing open, not moving, I started feeling the staring again. I tried to tell myself that it was simply the kitty trying to get out and using her paws to pull it open, and I must just not have shut it fully. I shut the door again and managed to fall back asleep, only to wake up not 15 minutes later to the door standing open once again. This time, my cat was fully asleep between my feet, and I knew she hadn't moved. To say the least, I was fully crawling out of my skin. I got out of bed and shut the door firmly. And this is the worst part. I watched the door to see if something was stuck or causing the opening, a scientific explanation to stop the panic. As I watched, the doorknob twisted in front of me. Not smoothly, just a jerky back and forth motion, and it began to push open once again. When I say I slammed it shut, I was terrified. Whatever was behind that door, it was a heavy, oppressing force, and I, unfortunately, recognized it from other experiences I'd had. I personally believe ghosts are never evil, nor can they cause harm to the living. Anything that does is not, and never was, human. This was not human. I cannot tell you how glad I am that my father taught me about the welcoming of entities into spaces. He always said, if you don't welcome it in, they cannot cross a threshold. I locked the door and spoke out loud. You are not welcome into this space. You have no power here. Luckily, the door didn't open again after that. But needless to say, I didn't sleep at all that night. I could feel whatever was standing there behind the shut door. I knew the barrier wasn't enough to stop it from watching me. The next day, I cleansed the entire apartment and told the entity over and over that it was not welcome. Luckily, it must not have been able to attach to me or anyone else there. Though only a week after this incident, my roommate with a chronic illness had a seizure after being seizure-free for over a year. I don't know if they're related, but I wouldn't rule it out. I never did finish that episode, and honestly, I have no interest in trying to. Thank you for reading this story, even if it doesn't make it to the podcast. I'd love to write in about how my great-grandmother's spirit possessed a plant when I saw a cryptid in the woods, not a Bigfoot. Sorry, Christy, although I think you mean Heather. Or how my father saw the devil's face sometime. Keep up the great work and know you are loved. Well, thank you for that, first of all.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
That's very sweet. And I also want to see a Bigfoot, but I think Heather's
I'm hungry
the
for
Bigfoot.
it.
She's
I'm hungry for it. Well, Bailyn, I think you got to avoid our Patreon mini-sodes because I think perhaps the demon, the Ouija board demon, I won't say it because I don't want to jack with your vibe where you're at right now because I'm assuming you're going to listen to the episode of your stories on, but we did a mini-sode on it, and so we said it a bunch of times too, so sorry about that. But it always cracks me up, like whether it's the Ouija board demon or like certain dolls that are they're rougher than, even one of the dolls we covered, I did not know that people have quite a visceral reaction to him, as well as another doll that we have not covered. And I've seen like when our pals, like if Em and Christine covered, or last podcast on the left, or Two Girls, One Ghost, on social media, people will be like, you get this shit out of my feed. You're cursing me with these pics. And I was like, so I think, you know, when these entities, man, they can come through the airwaves. The devil rules the airwaves. We've been saying it for 5 years, 6 years. Since
2018.
Now. Yeah.
Everybody. I know on TikTok, anytime there's something like that, everyone in the comments is like, I rebuke this energy. You cannot come into my house. And I'm like, I don't know how they get around. Wasn't it, what was that, Kevin Bacon movie where he traveled through the Wicker Man? Did he travel through the... If you hear a beast in the background at my house, it's not a demon. It is Petal, who I decided to let roam around the backyard because it's such a nice day. And now she's trying to get in the studio.
She'll just be like, yeah, man, I filmed her screaming the other night. That sounds like the calls of a devil for sure. It does,
for real. I'm always like, my neighbors are going to think, we've asked them and they're like, no, we never hear her. I'm like, I don't know how, man. She could wake up the dead.
They got their TV up loud or something. Well, you next time just go, you are not welcome in this space. You have no power here.
She has to go back. Yeah.
She's just going to be like, but maybe that's when people comment that it's like the digital equivalent of what Balyn's dad said to do, of like, I rebuke this energy, don't come at me. But yeah, I got chills for real thinking about a doorknob twisting. That does something to me.
Not even twisting, like yeah, because that's like energy more than a human hand twisting it, you know?
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
But I will keep that in my back pocket. So tell your dad, thank you. You are not welcome in this space. You have no power here. Which we had in the last one with April saying, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. So see, it worked.
It does work.
Well, yeah, please send us those Appalachia stories, any stories. It sounds like your family's got a breadth of experience. Yeah. I'd love to hear about all that. And thank you for sending this one in. It is eerie, and Em and Christy didn't mean it. They're good people. And they were just covering the topic like we did. And I was ignorant, just yelling it out that whole mini-sode. So skip that one. But the rest of them are good.